Hello everyone, welcome back to the Cronecast at the Rising Moon. My name is Elaine, and on this channel I do active magic candle magic tarot. I do the spirit guide weekly, I do candle magic tarot, I do predictive tarot. I'd love to get back to doing astrological reading tarot, but I've been really overscheduled for months at this particular point. Today I have for you something in a series of videos I've been doing, mostly so I can link my clients to them to help them recover from toxic relationship dynamics that have been holding them back from their best potential, their best partnerships, and the things that serve their highest good. And I've been calling this series Tarot Talks, and it is usually about recovering from narcissistic abuse. It's also about recovering from codependency, which once again is never going to be an insult. Codependency forms around usually formative damage trauma. Usually it can be about childhood abuse. It does not have to come from within the home. People who are bullied, people who grow up with narcissistic parents, people who grow up in emotionally volatile situations, and people who grow up with both physical and sexual abuse. Now, as a result of some of the topics that I'm going to be discussing today, please know that this video does come with multiple trigger warnings. Nothing's going to be graphic, nothing's going to be in great detail, but if you have trouble hearing about these things, know that I will be discussing some of the things that go into forming codependency within basically a relationship pattern, a relationship cycle that has a tendency to repeat. Please be aware, I have been recovering from codependent dynamics as well for about 2 years. And today I'm talking about what a transference relationship is, how it may be impacting you, what it has to do with the idea and the concept of a twin flame connection, which is real, by the way. It is real. And how you can tell the difference between a twin flame connection and a transference relationship, and can they actually be one in the same? Because they can. So let's get started, but I've done all the trigger warning. Again, this is not going to be a reading. This is a talk about how to recover from multiple forms of abuse that have been impacting a relationship. If you feel almost like you've had the same relationship over and over and over again, and one of the things I hear from people who are trying to recover from this is, I just want a person. Why is it so wrong to just want to give my love to somebody? And it's not wrong. It's not wrong. And you're not ever being punished by the divine. If you're kind of held in stasis, if you cannot find the person that you're hoping for, if you keep feeling like you're thwarted or denied, there's a couple of things to understand. You're not being punished. You may in fact be being aided by your guides, your guardians, your ancestors, and your angels. And another thing that we need to discuss is the difference between spirit guides and angels and how to work with them. So let's get started. And I always pull a couple of oracle cards to kind of as my version of notes. So the first thing I have is the card victim mentality. Now please don't be insulted by that either. What happens is that we can truly be victimized in our formative stages, and sometimes in our first relationships as well. It is a victim mentality is when you think you can't change something, when you think something is being visited upon you as a punishment versus a lesson. And a lot of the time we have trouble focusing in on the fact that most of the things that happen to us are as a result of our choices. Sometimes of the things that we haven't been paying attention to. Sometimes it is red flags that are ignored. Sometimes it is simply because empaths, and I attract a lot of empaths. Empaths are often formed by a traumatic experience repeatedly in childhood that keeps them very, very attuned to other people's feelings for a reason of emotional safety. And we can feel other people's feelings. Just the other day, and it rarely happens to me because the more somebody practices in this, and I do a lot of magic as well, the less likely it is that you will be able to overcome somebody's energy. But I did have a client who, for the first time in I'm going to go with almost ever, was able to pick up my emotional state. Because as I was reading him, he said, I'm getting a lot of anxiety off of you. And he was actually right. I have a situation in my own personal life, it has to do with a divorce, that was actually really preying on my mind. But I wasn't used to anybody picking up on it. He is exceptionally sensitive, and also somebody who needs to recover from codependency. In some of this, I will be discussing clients. No specifics will be given. No one can be identified. I'm using it just as an example. If you, by any chance, Feel as if the divine or your spirit guides have been denying you that which you're asking for. It often is because you're being held in a stasis period in order to heal, in order to be prevented from going towards the same type of relationship in a cyclical fashion that keeps you in the same energy. Like energy attracts like energy. So that is why we can be held away from the things that we want as we are asked to heal. And here's the thing, it's not the divine doing that to us. And that gets lost in sight to a lot of people. And it did to me as well. It did to me as well. When we talk about that was for your highest good, that means your highest self, the part of you that is tapped into the collective, the part of you that has access to the divine. And again, if you're attracted to me as a reader, you likely have a very, very powerful connection. You're likely quite psychic, intuitive, you may be able to do magic, and you often will have a healing ability. A lot of empaths do have the ability to heal, again, because we can feel other people's feelings. So what will happen is you are held away from a satisfying relationship as you are asked to examine your choices. And if you can release the idea, the victim mentality idea, that this is being done to you as a punishment, that is an excellent first step, and I know how hard it is to do. I have discussed elsewhere that I had such a traumatic childhood that even as I was getting therapy and things but I would freak therapists out because it was that bad. I was exposed to life-threatening levels of violence probably from the time I was born, but my very first memories are of my father trying to kill my mother, and at one point this is, again, we have trigger warnings here for a reason. I'm not going to get too specific with that, but I have multiples of those, and it wasn't the only thing that happened to me. And so for a long time, I had a hard time understanding, why would God do that to me? I've always had tremendous faith, and I didn't understand that very, very powerful people often will choose childhoods that are very traumatic so that we can learn what an abuse of power feels like, so that we can treat our own power going forward with respect when it comes to other people. Now, some people will never learn that lesson, but some people do. It does, however, leave us with wounds, psychic wounds, emotional wounds, and we have to resolve those before we can have a healthy relationship with another person. And too often, and I have been guilty of this myself, people who are in need of healing find somebody who they identify as needing healing as well, and they want to pour that healing love, which is actually meant to give to the world, not to one person. They try to give it to that person. I will heal this wounded person with my love. That, in my particular instance, and in the instance of so many of my clients that I've seen, partners are not projects. Partners are not projects. You cannot fix somebody and then have them be your perfect person. First of all, we're always going to be a work in progress. Somebody has to do the work for themselves. Just as I have to do the work for myself, you have to do the work for yourself, even if you are deeply in love, and you can be. You truly can be. With another person who has all kinds of issues, that's their work to do. This is a giant university, this entire experience that we have had. And if you have had bad experience after bad experience after bad experience, instead of saying, oh my gosh, why do these things keep happening to me? Stop. Remember, the past is in the past, and it can be triggering, so always be kind and gentle with yourself. But stop and look at, what am I finding out from my pattern? What am I finding out from my pattern? Because what happens when we don't receive the love that we need as children is that we will go towards partners who remind us of the people who damaged us, looking for validation, looking for those wounds to be healed by a similar source, and looking to an exterior force to try and accomplish interior work. And we all do it. It's not blame. It's not saying you're a weak person or a bad person. Just saying you're a person, and we're allowed to stumble, we're allowed to fall. This is a guide to trying to be happier, healthier, and to go towards your best life. It's not at all about blame or saying you should have done it differently. You will see this at the right time for you. And again, try to absorb this. If you absorb nothing else, no one is blaming you for your struggles. Not the divine, not me. Other tarot readers, sometimes I don't like the language that is used because it does seem blaming, because it's not expanded upon. I have other videos about what it really means to, you have to love yourself first. It does not mean, that's a little short statement that puts the emphasis and sometimes the blame on the person who is just in agony. And it's not about blame, it's about work to be done. And try to make that differentiation and you will go towards healing so much more easily. So the very first thing to do in trying to heal from a toxic relationship dynamic that has caused you to be wounded over and over and over again is to try and understand this is not something that is being done to you. We choose this existence. And why would we do that to ourselves? Because if you're very powerful, you will become the most powerful version of yourself when you are truly independent, when you don't have need-based relationships. That is what codependency is. It is not a character flaw. It is not about weakness. It is that we lose our self-definition, our self-respect, and our self-worth in the eyes of somebody else. It's treating our self-esteem as a mirror being held up to us, and it is reflected back by other people. That's codependency. That's all. That's all it is. What you're being asked to do instead is to take all of that love that you're trying to give to another person, quite frequently to fix their damage, to turn it inward and understand that, first of all, it has nothing to do with needing to remain single. It is best to remain single while you heal, but you're allowed to date. You're just being asked, don't try to commit, because another hallmark of codependency is overcommitment too quickly. Please understand that any relationship in the first 6 months, there is no true way to know another person. It takes time. So the first 6 months of any relationship have a tendency to be fantasy and projection. That doesn't mean it's all fantasy and projection, just the bulk of it. Until you know somebody, you can't really know somebody, even if you have an energetic and a cosmic tie with them. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Quite often, and this is another thing that needs to be understood, romantic relationships are not meant to be unconditional love. They are not meant to be unconditional love. In fact, unconditional love is you can continue to love somebody without supporting their choices and without allowing them access to you. So unconditional love is not what it is often touted as being either. I will just love, 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 love you despite how you treat me. That's a sign of codependence. And I actually do have somebody in my life, they're kind of not, because they're quite angry with me for this series of videos right now, who keeps mistaking the concept of I feel this perfect love whenever I think about this person. That feeling comes from within. It is not something created by the other person. Our brains release a chemical when we are in love. And codependency does function like an addiction. And right this moment, please release any idea that that is an insult. It's not. It is just a brain function. And it is not your fault. If you have fallen very deeply in love with somebody, it means you have tremendous love to give. But really take a good look at the target of that love. Are they deserving? Have you explained away things that you know are not meant to be in a relationship? There are attachment styles, and codependent people have a tendency to go towards people with an avoidant attachment style. That's where the whole twin flame thing, runner and chaser, comes. The runner is somebody with this kind of need-based attachment style, and I'm sorry, the runner is somebody with the avoidant attachment style, and the chaser is someone who has need-based. A secure attachment style is what we're trying to get towards, because that's healthy. When you're healthy, you will attract and keep healthier people in your life. People who are prone to codependency think that means that the next love that they have will be this lackluster, nowhere near as like that giddy high feeling that codependent love can bring. That's not true. It means that your ups and downs will not be controlled by your relationship. Your ability to love, it will still be there. It just won't be as fragile. It won't be dependent on the other person's actions, moods, whether or not you've been in contact. And here's where the whole twin flame dynamic comes in. Twin flames are a real thing. Twin flames mean we are made from the same energy. And what can get a little bit lost is that we can have more than one. It's not often that people will meet more than one twin flame within a lifetime, but the energy splits as we learn more and more. The more evolved you are, the more likely you are to have more than one twin flame. So if you have met your twin flame and it is not working out, it is not working out, remember you may have another. And also, if it's not working out, there's a reason the divine is doing that to you, and it is not about punishment. It is about the lessons you signed up to learn within this lifetime. It is about knowing that all of that love that you want to give to another person, give it to yourself first. And that way you will never accept poor treatment in the name of love again. And again, reminder, oh my gosh, the way I've been badly treated in relationships, and I just excused it and excused it and excused it. Because whenever, and specifically I was married for 20 years. And this is where a big trigger warning is going to come in. I have a type of PTSD that is associated most closely with combat veterans because, as I referenced a few moments ago, I was exposed to life-threatening violence from the time I was very small. And it left me very vulnerable in terms of being triggered. And although there's no way to prove this, looking at the actions of my nearly ex-husband, it does seem very intentional that he was triggering me in order to control me. And I am rendered almost helpless by being triggered by PTSD. Now, the good thing about that is the only people who can trigger me are the people I love. And I have to love them very, very dearly. Now, I don't love him any longer, so he has no power over me. But I need to be able to always be self-protective enough to make sure, because I do have that very severe form of PTSD, to make sure that I know how to protect myself against the people I love so that nobody can render me helpless again. Because he truly did, and it nearly destroyed me. I am here today because I am attached to a divine conduity, which means that I am attached to the spirit of air, also known as the Archangel Gabriel. And there was intervention on my behalf to save my life, but I very, very nearly didn't live. Codependency is very, very dangerous. I've been very fortunate, and part of the reason I want to share these stories has nothing to do with, hey, feel sorry for me. I'm fine. I'm fine. I've been recovering. I've been healing. I feel stronger every day. And at this particular point, lockdown served me well because I am very unlikely to ever pair up with anybody again unless that person is the right person. And I know very well that no one will be able to trigger me in order to control me again, because what happened with my ex-husband was because he is a malignant narcissist or maybe a sociopath, I've never been able to tell, he knew that I would not fight back if it meant that he was threatening to withdraw his love, because I have severe abandonment issues. Like I said, not the only stuff that happened to me. Almost like I'm like a textbook of please don't do this to a child. They could be very odd in the aftermath. But I'm also very, very resilient. And I'm also very, very strong, and I'm incredibly fortunate. I've been incredibly fortunate in my life, and the people that I've met, and the intervention that I have received. Sometimes I don't understand the divine's role in my life, but I know it's there. I know it's there. If you have found yourself questioning, I want to have faith, but why would God do this to me? Nothing is being done to you. Things are being brought to you so that you can examine them, so that you can heal, so that you can be strong, so that you can receive the love you truly deserve. If you have been in relationships where you have excused away things like, well, technically I got with that person when they were with another person and I didn't even know. Hey, that's a red flag. Why didn't they tell you? Now, there is something called a codependent relationship breakup cycle, and I have engaged in them. I was very determined not to when I knew that I needed to leave my husband. And because it is, unfortunately, codependency functions like an addiction, it was not necessarily a choice on my part. So the universe was kind enough to bring me a form of methadone in the form of a relationship that I would desperately want, but the other person, for reasons of their own, and I'm not going to go too far into that, would not engage in that relationship. And I was very, very fortunate in that, because subsequently I met a series of other men who would have been very, very happy to have a relationship with me, but I wasn't interested in them because I had transferred all of my need-based love onto this other person. And the only way it was able to happen for me was I had an existing love for this person that was in another form. The way you're able to tell the difference between a transference relationship and a real love, a nourishing love, one that is about that twin flame connection, is, does it exist after it's best to treat it like a true addiction recovery program after a full year of no contact? In my case, it still does exist because I actually have true love for that human being. I don't know like what is ever meant to come from that. Maybe everything that was ever meant to come from that has already come to me. Maybe he was simply meant to be my form of methadone to kind of draw me away from a toxic relationship dynamic to let me heal. And if that's the case, I'm grateful. I'm grateful because it stopped a perpetual cycle for me where I kept looking for my value, my worth, and my own, I guess I'm going to go with the word lovability, in another person's eyes. I had to learn that I am deserving of love just as I am, and so are you. And that is all the divine is asking you to be. If you are drawn towards somebody and there is a laundry list of they have to heal this, they have to heal that, quite frequently it will manifest in addiction in other people. If they are an alcoholic, if they have been in a series of punishing relationships, if they keep returning to their abuser who was the person who caused, maybe people who caused the formative damage in the first place, like not being, we can have codependent dynamics with our family as well. Until such time as you heal codependency, it will repeat and repeat and repeat. But once you heal it, you're strong, you're happy, you're healthy. You will always have to be a little bit on the lookout to make sure that, hey, I don't get too dependent on my relationships for support, knowing that you are powerful, that you can be independent, and that please examine your own history. You always figure out a way to solve problems. You don't need another person. It's okay to take support, but ultimately and finally, you are the person who has the power in your life. If you're trying to give your power to another person, if you have been sitting on a shelf waiting for this other person to get their poop in a group so that they can be with you, that is a hallmark of codependency. Release them to do their work and do your own. And here's where twin flames come in. When you are codependent, your twin flame will be as well, because you are made from the same energy. So this is not negating the concept of twin flames. It's just saying until such time as you're both healed, you can't be together. And when you are together, if you're able to heal your damage and come together, it is a fabulous relationship from what I understand. But it can't happen until you're healed, because if it doesn't, if you try to be together before you're both healed, you will exacerbate and worsen the damage and the trauma that you have, and you'll become ultra dependent on one another. And it will sometimes open up old wounds and cause more problems than it can possibly solve. So, not a popular thing to be saying, but remember, if you think you've met your twin flame and you are codependent and you have reason to believe they have returned it, because unfortunately there is, with codependent transference, unrequited love situations can result. You can transfer onto somebody who does not reciprocate. You'll be able to tell over the course of time, has that person been loving and kind to you as well? It is very possible. Unfortunately, empaths are incredibly prone to relationships with narcissists, because narcissists, they want so much attention. And empaths, we want to give people so much attention. And so that is why these predatory people are very drawn to people who are very vulnerable to somebody else withdrawing their love or giving it, dependent on their mood or what they control you. They can control you. The way to tell you've really met your twin flame is they will likely have been in a relationship with a narcissist, or they will have addiction issues, or they will also have triggering issues. And that doesn't mean, unfortunately, that you can be together. Not until you're healed and they are healed. So the easiest way to bring your twin flame into your life is to focus on your own healing. And stuck energy is exactly that. If you are perpetuating a cycle, that is stuck energy. And once again, please forgive me. I understand that this may not be the most popular concept or the most popular thing to be hearing. And if it's triggering you, I apologize. Step away, go ground, work on your root chakra. It's very, very helpful when you're triggered. But if it's not, please continue to listen. Once you release the toxicity of a repeating pattern, you will be free. Once you release that stuck energy, we have to release to receive. Release the old dynamics, release the old patterns so that the new, healthy, thriving ones can come to you. And does it mean spending time alone when you don't want to? Yes. But if you crave a relationship so much that you cannot be alone, that's a hallmark of codependency. And if you say, but I've been alone for so long, it's because you won't do your healing work. And again, I did the same thing. I am not insulting you. You are my people. I am the codependency queen over here. I'm always saying it, and it will always be true. This is to free you, not shame you. If you have been in a repeating cycle, if you just say, I just want my person, start out by saying, so I need to be my person first. Heal yourself, and true and actual love will come to you. And if by some chance, this is a lifetime where you have actually chosen to be fully independent and alone, it will stop mattering to you once you're healed. It truly will. I'm actually very happy by myself. I have a lot of fun. I've always liked being alone, even as a little kid. It was actually my refuge. Does that mean I never want another partner? Honestly, I have no idea at this point. If the right person comes into my life, then that will be something to reevaluate at that time, but it's going to have to be the right person. And as I said, I did experience transference, and I don't quite know if that was a completely unrequited situation or not. If it is, then I'm doing my very best to release it. And if it's not, I'm still doing my very best to release it because I know how much work and healing that other person has to do. Now, here are the things that for me support that that is likely my twin flame versus just transference. That other person is psychic. They are capable of doing magic. There's actually quite a lot behind this. They are and I started describing him physically when I was 13 years old. And he's not an easy person to describe. So very likely a twin flame. But a twin flame can come into your life, and within this lifetime, you're not meant to be together. And twin flames can be platonic, which is another thing to keep in mind. And I'm very at peace with whatever form that needs to take. And I'm also very at peace with the concept of it was just transference. And it kept me safe from the series of men who came into my life, even during lockdown, who would have been very, very happy to have a relationship with me, and it would have been catastrophic to my emotional health. It took me a very long time to simply be grateful to the divine for putting me in a timeout until I was healed, because it gives me the best shot at my own happiness going forward, and I will never be at somebody's mercy again. And that's the thing to focus on. If you are being kept from your person, if you are being kept from a relationship, it's not a punishment, it is an opportunity. And you will, I swear to you, as painful as healing is, it feels glorious on the other side of that. One of the best feelings in the world for me right now is knowing that my ex-husband could do a bazillion things that he has tried in the past to yank my little strings around, and I'd laugh. I'd just laugh at the concept that he was still trying, when all I have for him at this point is a feeling of almost pity for how empty his emotional life truly is. All right, we have deserving. One of the things that will help you is knowing that you deserve real love, and you do. You do. And that's where people get stuck in the, why can't I have what I want? Because what you want is actually hurting you. It is actually hurting you and keeping you from being your happiest self. If you are happy by yourself, no one will ever have power over it again. Truly. So we have family, friends, and guides again. This is where I'm going to talk about what spirit guides are versus angels. Now, I am connected to an archangel, and I had to directly interact with it about 2 years ago. Whoa. It sincerely, I had something essentially take almost full control of me to save my life, to get me out of a terrible situation. And I still remember its presence guiding me around, and it was terrifyingly intelligent. And also, no way to mistake it for being quite human. They are the guardians who guard the four corners. Mine is Gabriel. It's a very cold and analytical energy. That's not the same thing as saying it has no love or caring, but it's never been human. It will never be human. And human emotion, we're not as fragile as we think we are. So an angel will wreck your entire world to fix it. And they're not trying to be cruel. They're trying to keep you on your path. And if you ask for angelic assistance, we can all call out to archangels, by the way. We can all call out to archangels. Raphael is usually the one in charge of healing, but we can all call out to archangels. If an angel is intervening on your behalf, remember, never been human, never going to be human, but frequently your guides have been. Go to your guides for, please help me, bring me something to heal me. I have to have something to be happy. Please, please, please give me a sign, make me know I'm not alone. They get what the struggle of emotional pain is because they're closer to having had a human existence. Not always, we have all kinds of different guides, but we have a bunch of different guides. So you will have guides who are able to understand your emotional process. Guides are for comfort and consoling, and for direction and for steering things around. Angels are for intervention, and be careful, assume crash positions sometimes. Depending on how bad the situation you're is in, they might have to blow up your whole life. And that is what happened to me. And it is still like the pieces are settling, but I'm happier and happier each day with that. And the other thing is, don't forget, you need to ask for intervention. Otherwise, it interferes with your free will. So ask, and know that it will take the form that it is meant to. And sometimes it takes a very different shape before exactly what we're asking for comes to us. If you're asking about a specific person, please listen to this. Release that. Release that. There could be another person, and if you're in the throes of codependency, it's offensive to hear that. But settle it down for a second and listen to this. I'm not trying to be condescending. I had to go through this as well. If you cannot even begin to believe that you could love another person in the same way, that's a hallmark of codependency. I am almost 54 years old, and so I've had a series of relationships, and each time I thought I was really, really in love. I can look back and be like, he was like my dad, oh, that was like my mom, oh gosh, that was like my alcoholic grandmother. I can genuinely see the formative figures in my life. I kept going to people who reminded me of the very people who badly hurt me, and it's a very normal thing to do. If you cannot even begin to believe there is somebody else for me, maybe the divine knows what they're doing. If you can't believe that yet, please keep working on healing. Because flexibility around outcomes, simply ask for your soulmate. Ask for your best love. Ask for the thing that will serve your highest self. And remember, when we talk about something being for your highest good, that is not something the divine is doing to us. That is something we very specifically ask for with our higher consciousness. And if you can't quite believe that yet, it's because you've still got work to do. And the only reason I know that is because I had to do it too. This time last year, if I had listened to this, I would have thought I was full of crap. But not entirely. Not entirely, because there was a detail with that transference, there were actually two details with that transference relationship that always had me questioning it. Always had me questioning why. That's the one thing that I have always steered clear from, and it's alcoholism. I have always steered clear of alcoholism, simply like in partners, because my main caretaker growing up was a grandmother who was deeply alcoholic. She set the house on fire twice, and the second time I was in it, essentially by myself. And I was 12 years old, and that is actually how I learned that I have a conduency, that I am a divine conduit, because something woke me up quite roughly to save my life. Otherwise, I would have died in a mattress fire and perished from smoke inhalation. That is the story of how I discovered that I am able to connect with something. I was 12 at the time. It would go kind of dark for a long time, but I was always aware that I was attached to what is known in the belief system I was raised in. I don't practice it any longer, but I do believe in the actual teachings of that belief system, as long as they are practiced versus simply spoken. I do believe in it, and in that belief system, the spirit of air, the advanced spirit of communication, is referred to the Archangel Gabriel, which is the element of air. We have 4 elements that essentially hold our reality together. Gabriel is air, Michael is earth, Raphael is water, and Uriel is fire. Those are the guardians who guard the 4 corners. Okay, we have ascended masters, and that's exactly what I was just talking about. Your higher self. Also with peace. So, as you go through a healing journey, understand it's hard. And particularly in the wake of breaking free from codependency, we go through withdrawal. A lot of people who come to me who are trying to leave behind codependency, they will describe, it felt like I was dying, it's withdrawal. And how can it be withdrawal if you're not actually taking in a substance? That's where we go back to brain chemistry. Our brains release a chemical when we believe ourselves to be in love, and when we are deprived of that, it causes withdrawal. It can even cause almost delusional thinking. The thing I hear over and over again from clients is, I feel like I'm crazy. You're not crazy. You're experiencing a completely normal brain function. And why hasn't this been described a great deal throughout the tarot community and in other like psychological communities? I think because the understanding of how codependency function is ever evolving, and the information is coming to us. And if you are watching this video and everything resonates, know it is because you are being called to your purpose. There is a reason for you to heal. Now, the last thing to try and settle into is peace. And what constitutes peace? Patience is peace. If you are constantly looking forward to, when does my person come to me? When does the next good thing happen to me? Why can't I? Remember, there's value in the here of now. And again, I had to learn this so deeply. There's value in your day-to-day existence, even when you're by yourself. You can have really cute dogs, you can live in a beautiful place, you can watch things, read things, experience things, eat things that are delightful, that they do not, your life experience is not dependent on sharing it with another person. It can be very pleasant to do so, and you're not being denied that. You're just being held in stasis until such time as you can protect yourself from that connection, so that you will no longer be continually and perpetually damaged and sent backwards in time to that formative experience that caused you to have a feeling of a lack of worth. And that is another thing that causes codependency. Codependency starts with trauma, but if you're able to do the work, if you're able to have the self-focus, you can heal your trauma. And on the other side of that may be a beautiful relationship, but even if there is not, you will have peace with the concept. And impatience serves nothing. If you are impatient by nature, remember, impatience doesn't alter anything other than how you feel. You feel wretched when you're impatient. Try to remember, well, I just have today, and I'll do the work that I can do today, and tomorrow will be the same way. And I'm not trying to look 6 months in the future. I'm not trying to look 2 years in the future. I'm not always looking out there. I'm doing a little bit of forward looking, because we all do need to prepare. We need to achieve and to maintain the level of security that we can. And remember, when you're living your purpose, the divine is taking care of you, because you're on the path that you are asking for. Now, not everybody asks for the same level of comfort and security. I am in one of the only ways that it manifests as my being a Taurus, because as I shared the other day, I don't even like to eat very much. I'm the least typical Taurus around. I like physical comfort quite a bit. And so one of the things that is almost always likely to come to me is the opportunity to be surrounded by beauty, and then the opportunity to be very physically comfortable. That's not the same thing as being spoiled. We are given what we truly need to thrive. And if you're not receiving what you truly need to thrive, it is because you are being asked to examine, where have you perhaps deviated from the path you chose before you even came here? And remember, peace is delightful. It is wonderful. It is better than happiness. Happiness can come and go, and it is meant to. Joy is also meant to come and go. We are not meant to live lives devoid of suffering. What we are meant to do is to achieve the peace that comes with, even when you're suffering, knowing this is not permanent. Suffering will end. Suffering will end, and it will end more quickly if I can peacefully settle into the concept of now is not always. I can do the work I have for me today, and it will change and alter things. I believe in my ability to find my inner world. When you have peace within your inner world, your outer world can be a swirling vortex, and you will still believe in your ability to connect. You will still believe in your ability to have love. You will still believe in your ability to connect with the divine, and know that fluctuation in your external circumstances is temporary. You will have faith in yourself. You will have trust in yourself. And again, none of this relates to not being allowed to have love. None of it. It relates to the concept of if you are whole within, you are connected to the divine. And you cannot be whole within until such time as you heal codependency, because codependency is the need to give a lot of your self-definition to having another person there. And again, it has nothing to do with being denied love. And when you're really in a codependent energy, and God knows I was, when you're really in a codependent energy, hearing that sounds like, I have to be alone. No, you don't have to be alone. What you need to be is self-protective enough that you would rather have somebody leave your life entirely than allow them to injure you in the name of love. And you will also have healthier practices around engaging in relationships. Your security, your safety, your worth will never be in anybody's hands except your own. And it doesn't mean somebody else will never make you happy. It will just add to your existing happiness. And when tough times come, when there are periods of unhappiness or grief or pain or loss, when you are truly whole within, it will pass more quickly because you will be able to process, to heal, and to release that damage more quickly. It is a tough road. If you are drawn to me as a reader, and I will almost always have a very small collective because I attract healers, I attract leaders, I attract psychics, and I attract magicians. If you are drawn to me as a leader, part of the reason this is being brought to you is that you have a purpose, and you've likely always wanted one. You've always wanted to make a difference in this world, and you are being asked to heal so that you can. Our world is very out of balance. When we talk about light workers, when we talk about star seeds, this is not language I particularly use, but it is a framing of a real thing, meaning there's a narrative built around something that is very real. Our world is out of balance right now, and you are the light, you are the hope, and you are the love. Please concentrate on healing. Concentrate on healing. It is the very thing that will bring you everything that you are seeking. And I know that can be hard to believe, but it will. Allow yourself to heal, and you will have all the love you ever dreamed of. And it may come from another person, and it may come from multiple sources, but it will always start, its origin point will always start with you. Thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, I know this is not going to be one of the more popular videos that I ever shoot. Please hear this in the spirit in which it is intended. The divine loves you. See yourself as the divine does. You are innately and deeply lovable. And all of that wonderful fixing energy that you want to direct towards another person, direct it towards you first. Direct it towards you first. That is what you need to love yourself first. Truly, truly means. Take care, be well, and thank you for joining me. I beg of you.